in interesting times. Today's stories. Canada changes the protocol for the 2-dose vaccines. The City of Toronto prepares to begin vaccination. VBI vaccine to be tested at the Ottawa Hospital. Health Minister Adrian Dix blames TELUS for vaccinations booking chaos. Long COVID patients describe debilitating symptoms. Biden condemns un-American racist attacks on Asian Americans. UNICEF says a generation is threatened as pandemic sets back childhood development. In sports, the CFL is set to collaborate with XFL owners and Redbird Capital. And Blake Griffin signs with Brooklyn Nets. Hello everyone, you're watching Eagle News Canada. I'm Marjorie Quintos reporting from Montreal, Quebec, bringing you stories from across the globe. Is the Canadian government playing a numbers game with changes to vaccine protocol? Eagle News correspondent Thomas Likeness with a story.
Over the last few weeks, the protocol for the 2-dose vaccines in Canada has been changed. When the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines were first approved by Health Canada, the manufacturers recommended the second dose be given within 3 to 4 weeks of the first. Now, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization has revised that recommendation. It says the second dose can be given as much as 3 to 4 months later. That has a number of researchers questioning the wisdom of the decision. So, why does the government want the change? Simple. It can double the number of people, it says, who have been partially immunized. The government is basically saying some immunity is better than none. But scientists argue there's no clinical evidence of whether immunity from the first dose will be compromised by waiting longer for the second. One media report quoted Canada's chief scientific advisor, her name is Mona Namer, as saying, it's a population-level experiment, and she wants the country to stick with the original recommendations. She says a decision should be made after there are proper clinical trials done. And then there's another media report that says several senior researchers have sent a letter to the Ontario government expressing their concerns about the plan. They say there's just too many unknowns about how this will impact the vaccine's effectiveness. They also worry about whether this revised protocol will exacerbate the spread of COVID-19 variants. To address the problem, the government should be looking at increasing the supply of the vaccine instead of watering down what little bit we have. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
As the City of Toronto begins vaccination, Eagle News correspondent Joshua Santillana tells us what Torontonians need to prepare.
Vaccine confidence and access to vaccines are Toronto's main concerns as the city launches its citywide mobilization vaccine campaign. Here is Mayor John Tory with the announcement.
The city and its hospital and healthcare partners have now administered more than 211,247 doses of vaccines to Torontonians, including thousands of Torontonians 80 years of age and older. The effort to get shots in arms is continuing today, with 22 clinics open across the city today.
The city also announced Wednesday that online bookings for Toronto residents 80 years of age and older will open beginning Friday, March 12. 3 mass immunization clinics will open next week to support this campaign. The locations are as follows. Metro Toronto Convention Centre at 255 Front Street West, Scarborough Town Centre at 300 Borough Drive, and Toronto Congress Centre at 650 Dixon Road. According to the City of Toronto, these clinics are the first 3 out of the 9 strategically located mass immunization clinics that are part of the overall vaccination program, prioritizing harder-hit neighborhoods and vulnerable populations. To book an appointment, residents will need the following: information found on the Government of Ontario photo health card, birth date, postal code, and email address and/or phone number. Online bookings are done by going on www.toronto.ca/COVID-19. The system will verify the resident's eligibility. If eligible, Toronto residents can choose their preferred schedule to get the first and second dose of the vaccine, respectively. Both first and second dose appointments must be scheduled during the same booking session. If a resident needs help booking their schedule, they are allowed to have someone book their vaccination appointment on their behalf. If a resident chooses not to book an appointment when online bookings open Friday, and if they are eligible to get the vaccine, their eligibility continues and will be able to book at a later time if they wish. If online booking is not possible, a phone number will be set up next week to book appointments. This will be announced on Ontario's website when it becomes available. The city is advising residents not to call 311 or Toronto Public Health to book an appointment. Mayor John Tory expresses his desire to get all Toronto residents vaccinated.
With predictable and large deliveries of doses expected over the coming weeks, as we outlined earlier on this week, I am confident that we will be able to start up the full suite of our vaccination efforts, including the remaining megasites, which are largely ready to open their doors, furnished and ready to go, pending confirmation of supply. And that's along with the many other community and mobile initiatives that we will use to help get Torontonians vaccinated. We won't stop, nor will our hospital and healthcare partners won't stop until everyone who wants their shot has received their shot.
In Toronto, Joshua Santillana, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
The Ottawa Hospital to test COVID-19 vaccine candidate developed by VBI Vaccines, a biotechnology company with Ottawa-based research and development facilities. Eagle News correspondent Andre Lajoie with the details.
The Ottawa Hospital to test COVID-19 vaccines candidate developed by VBI Vaccines, a biotechnology company with Ottawa, Canada-based research and development facilities. The first phase of the trial is expected to include 60 healthy adult ages from 18 to 54, while the second phase could expand participants to all ages from 18 and over. The Ottawa Hospital site, led by Dr. Bill Cameron and Dr. Micheline McGinty, is one of 9 sites in Canada enrolling participants. By participating in this trial, volunteers will be advancing research that will help to fight against COVID-19 and other infectious disease as well, said Dr. Micheline McGinty, infectious disease specialist and clinician investigator at the Ottawa Hospital and literature at the University of Ottawa. The vaccine candidate, called VBI-2902, contains the spike protein from SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, embedded in a synthetic lipid envelope. It is referred as an envelope virus-like particle because the immune system, the vaccine particle, mimic the natural presentation of the virus, but have no infectious generic material and cannot be replicated. The University of Ottawa is home to over 50,000 students, faculty, and staff who live and work and study in both French and English. Individuals who participate in the VBI-2902 trial will be randomized to receive different doses of the experimental vaccine or a placebo. The campus of the University of Ottawa is a crossroad of culture and ideas where bold minds come together to inspire game-changing ideas. Canada's top 10 research universities or professors and researchers explore new approaches to today's challenges. One of a handful of Canadian universities ranked among the top 200 in the world, we attract exceptional thinkers and welcome diverse perspectives from across the country. This is Andre Lajoie in Ottawa, Canada. We live in an interesting time.
BC Health Minister Adrian Dix points a finger at TELUS for Vancouver's coastal health vaccination booking chaos. Eagle News correspondent Vanessa Condi tells us the story.
As BC is approaching phase 2 of the COVID-19 immunisation plan, the COVID vaccine booking system started this week. The first morning the phone lines opened, more than 1.7 million calls were received. Vancouver Coastal Health Region had the most trouble with the phone lines, and many people could not book appointments the first couple of days. The phone lines were contracted out to a large telecommunications company, which the government has blamed for not honouring the contract. Vancouver Coastal Health Region also did not have a contingency plan.
Well, I mean, you can blame whoever you want to blame, quite frankly. We had a bad day yesterday, we being all British Columbians that live in Vancouver Coastal Health. We're taking steps today to correct that. Other parts of British Columbia, other health authorities had contingency plans that weren't in place in Vancouver Coastal. They will be in the next number of hours. The contractor was a highly regarded and respected contractor. We had every expectation that they would be able to meet the conditions of their contract. They didn't. They acknowledged that, and I think we need to move on. I'm happy to accept responsibility and blame for this if that's what British Columbians are seeking. But I think more importantly, British Columbians are seeking vaccinations. We have more products now approved by Health Canada. We have more product coming to British Columbia, and we have a system in place that failed on making a booking yesterday, but we continue to vaccinate British Columbians, over 300,000 already, and hundreds of thousands of more before the end of this month.
The bookings had picked up the next couple of days, and the telecom company had issued an apology and provided extra resources. The BC government has extended the number of seniors eligible for vaccinations earlier than expected. People aged 85 and older can now book vaccine appointments. In Victoria, BC, Vanessa Condi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Difficulties breathing, walking, concentrating. 5 months after being diagnosed with COVID-19, Canadian Violaine Pousseau, like many others, continues to suffer severe persistent symptoms that prevent her from resuming a normal life.
Je marche à 2 km/h. Ça me prend 30 minutes faire le tour du pâté de maison. Alors que normalement, ça en prend même pas 10.
J'ai l'impression d'avoir effectivement vieilli de 30 ans en quelques mois. La personne à qui vous parlez actuellement, là, c'est pas la personne que je suis habituellement. Je suis très, très énergique. J'ai une voix puissante. Je suis enseignante. On m'entend sans problème au fond de la classe. J'ai les idées claires habituellement. Donc là, j'ai le corps plus vieux, la voix plus vieille que le corps et la voix de ma vieille mère de 80 ans. Actuellement, je parle à la moitié de la vitesse à laquelle je parle habituellement. C'est pas du tout mon débit. Je me reconnais pas. Mes proches me reconnaissent pas non plus. C'est pas la personne que je suis habituellement.
On a besoin de beaucoup plus de données pour avoir ces chiffres-là. Mais d'après ce qu'on voit dans les études, nos estimations seraient que ça pourrait être de 10 à 30% qu'il y aurait des complications long terme. Ce qu'on sait avec les études à travers le monde, c'est au moins jusqu'à 6 à 7 mois, il y a des complications. Et je peux vous dire, avec les patients qu'on a vus, les appels qu'on reçoit, il y a des patients à 1 an post-infection qui ont toujours des séquelles de la COVID.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday condemned what he called vicious hate crimes committed against Asian Americans since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, calling such acts un-American and demanding they stop.
Vicious hate crimes against Asian Americans who've been attacked, harassed, blamed, and scapegoated. At this very moment, so many of them are fellow Americans. They're on the front lines of this pandemic trying to save lives. And still, they're forced to live in fear for their lives just walking down streets in America. It's wrong, it's un-American, and it must stop.
Closed schools, surging poverty, forced marriages, and depression. After a year of the pandemic, Indicators measuring child and adolescent development have all regressed, a setback that heralds lasting stigma for an entire generation, UNICEF warned. The number of children who are hungry, isolated, abused, anxious, living in poverty, and forced into marriages has increased, says Henrietta Fore, Executive Director of the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, in a statement released exactly 1 year since the World Health Organization classified COVID-19 as a pandemic. Quote, their access to education, socialization, and essential services including health, nutrition, and protection has decreased. The signs that children will bear the scars of the pandemic for years to come are unmistakable, Fore said in the statement.
This is really a children's crisis, and children have paid a heavy price. And that's why it is important that children are at the heart of the recovery. If we make the right kinds of choices and decisions now, we can make sure that we don't have a lost generation of children, that we recover well, we invest in the right things that make sure that the next generation recovers and hopefully bounces back.
UNICEF cited a series of worrying figures in support of Fore's words. While the pandemic has taken a heavy toll on the elderly, children and adolescents under 20 make up 13% of the 71 million coronavirus cases reported in the 107 countries that provided age-specific data. In developing countries, projections show a 15% increase in child poverty. 6 to 7 million more children could suffer from malnourishment in 2020, an increase of 14% that could translate to more than 10,000 additional deaths per month, mainly in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. For 168 million students around the world, schools have been closed for nearly a year. A third of those students do not have access to online education.
The impact of children not going to school are many, and first of all on learning. They have a right to learn and to be prepared for the world that awaits them. But it's beyond that. A lot of the impacts on, say, nutrition are because they don't have access to school meals. When children are out of school, their parents don't have jobs and don't have income, that creates certain dynamics that result in families looking for other options and girls being forced into early marriages. It's very sad, but that's the reality. And this was an area where we were seeing reductions and not as fast as we would like. But again, the pandemic has set us back.
As a result of the shuttered school and worsening economic situation, the pandemic could also lead to the marriage of 10 million children by 2030, adding to the 100 million girls already considered at risk of marriage by then. At least 1 in 7 children or adolescents has spent the majority of past year under lockdown orders, increasing anxiety, depression, and isolation. The coronavirus has led to the suspension of vaccination campaigns against other diseases, starting with measles, in 26 countries, increasing threats to the health of non-immunized people. Coming up, in sports, the CFL is set to collaborate with XFL owners and Redbird Capital. And Blake Griffin signs with Brooklyn Nets. Eagle News Canada continues after this.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced. Not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas. A 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science, and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to thank our health outdoor chat.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
I'ma ride long as I am alive. Whoa.
Word up, no rap, no crap, your boy.
Bakit para tayong nasa monthly finals na pa-semis na? Ba't ganon? Grabe.
Lahat ng ginawa ninyo parang hindi kayo nagko-compete. Kung sino man nanalo ngayon, good luck talaga.
Samahan niyo po kami as we once again make Cindy the dance floor on fire. Dito lamang po yan sa Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 Dance Edition.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News Canada. I am Marjorie Quintos from Montreal, Quebec. Good news for CFL and XFL fans. The two football leagues are potentially planning to collaborate, possibly during the 2022 season. Eagle News correspondent Zulti Horvath reports.
The Canadian Football League are in discussions with XFL owners Danny Garcia, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and private investment firm Redbird Capital to collaborate with the goal of helping both leagues grow the game of football. Both parties released statements on Wednesday stating that the leagues are in the early stages of discussions, but no definite plan or decision has been made on the two leagues merging or what the collaboration actually means for each league. However, both leagues stated they are excited about the opportunity to build an innovative experience that will cater to both leagues' unique strengths for players and fans across North America and the world. The CFL canceled their 2020 season due to the ongoing pandemic and failed to secure aid from the Canadian government. The XFL canceled their season after 5 weeks of games last August and filed for bankruptcy by former owner Vince McMahon. Garcia, The Rock, and Redbird Capital bought the league for $15 million a few months later. For EBC Sports, I'm Jolty Horvath. We live in interesting times.
Another big-name player comes to Brooklyn. The Nets signed six-time All-Star Blake Griffin for the remainder of the season. Here's Eagle News correspondent Tenny Sumagi with more.
Another All-Star is added to Brooklyn's star-studded lineup. The Nets signed forward Blake Griffin for the remainder of the season. The six-time All-Star will come off the bench and will reunite with former Lob City teammate DeAndre Jordan.
First of all, in my conversations with them, leading up to this, I feel like they well, obviously expressed interest. Interest was mutual. I felt like they had a need, for another big, another guy to facilitate, sort of fill these gaps. What they have. I mean, anytime you have these type of players, you gotta have guys around them to relieve that pressure. And for me, it's about playing meaningful basketball, playing in the playoffs, and contending for a championship. So, those were my main reasons. The ball finds the best players, and that for us is obviously KD, Kyrie, and James. And that's not really a thing that I don't think I'll have to like consciously do. I've played basketball a long time, and like I said, played with guys like that before. And those guys make the game easier. So you play off them and you fill in those spots.
It's great, man. We obviously had some great years together, 9 great years. We obviously didn't reach the pinnacle and the ultimate goal that we wanted to reach while we were there. It's great to have him a part of this team. And, we're going to definitely need him. He's going to come in and help us as best as he can. And, just be Blake Griffin. And we're excited to have him.
We'll have more stories and highlights on the Nets and other teams in the NBA throughout the season. In New York, Tenny Sumagi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
For those who continue to do their part in preventing COVID-19 by staying at home and who also want to learn something new in the kitchen, this mouth watering feature is for you, courtesy of the Pimento family from Kinohi, Hawaii.
Our main ingredients today is sausage or kielbasa, all cut up in big chunks, and bell peppers and onions. And the seasonings that I'll be using is just garlic salt, Maggi seasoning, and any barbecue sauce that you prefer. Okay, next you'll heat up some oil, and when it gets hot, you will throw in the sausage into the pan. And you will cook it till it's slightly brown. After you have turned to this color, take the sausage out of the pan and set it aside for now. On the same frying pan, go ahead and add your bell peppers and the onions, preferably sweet onions. And again, stir fry it until almost the onions are caramelized. After a few minutes, you'll add back the sausage that you have previously cooked and stir together. At this time, we'll add in garlic salt, a couple of dashes of the Maggi seasoning, and continue to stir fry. And the last, you will add in your barbecue sauce and continue to stir fry. The finished product looks like this with the accompaniment of rice, sausage with bell peppers with barbecue sauce.
That's our program for today. Join us again next week as we bring stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I am Marjorie Quintos. We live in interesting times.